Okay. Well, we'll see how this works, I guess.
Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm not bad.
Excellent. Nice to hear your voice.
Yes, and yours as well. It's been a hot minute or month.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how life gets away from you.
Yeah, just a little bit. My goodness.
Yeah.
Ah,
So what have
Well-
you been up?
yeah.
I was going to say, do you want to wait until you do your intro, or how do you want to play this?
Yeah, I can do the intro. It's fine.
Okay.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Scouting Stuff You Should Know. This is... Well, I don't even do the episode numbers anymore, do I? Goodness, I'm forgetting myself. But you've got two of us, at any rate. Scouter Ken. The other end of the Discord link is Scouter Colin.
Hello.
And, yeah, it's been long enough since we've done a recording that I completely forgot the script there for half a second. So, that's fun.
Yeah.
But, I mean, fortunately, the folks at Scouting Radio did me a solid, gave me some content to fill in last time, which was a discussion that needed to be had, and I don't know if we need to go over that. It's not, I don't know if I'm in the headset or headspace for that tonight, but...
Yeah, it's a pretty... There's a lot there to unpack, so...
So much so, and especially now that there's like emails going around within the group about different things that we may want to disassociate ourselves from or may not want to dissociate ourselves from. There's been some interesting conversations taking place, but not necessarily where I wanted to go with that. Especially because I haven't checked in with you in like a month. So what's been news?
Well, it depends on. I have a lot of. I've got some other people's news from the crew. If
Well, I know one of our number just fled the province.
yeah.
Did you get roped into helping him move? Did you?
No.
Oh, wow,
actually,
that's a first.
Yeah. Well, that's not entirely true. I may have to help move the car. He was restoring that. What year was it? 67 Cougar.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what it was. Was it 67? I don't know. I remember towing it behind my truck a couple of times.
Oh, jeez.
But
obviously not functional as a car yet.
Yeah, I may actually, because I have access to a rather heavy-duty trailer and a truck, so I may load it up and transport it to Lumbee for him. But
oh, wow.
We'll see how that goes. I don't know when. I don't know when I would do that, but you know,
sometime before the chain up laws come into effect. Although I don't know if that's universal. No, that is universal across BC now, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. If you go across BC, you have to have. Well, it's not necessarily the chain. You have to have.
That's true. It's winter tires.
Yeah. The ice tires or whatever.
Still, you don't want to be chewing up your winter tires, towing a 67 Cougar through the mountains when it's 15 degrees Celsius outside.
Yes. No, if I can avoid that, I will.
Thought.
That's does not need to happen today kind of.
No.
So, but yeah, no, other than that, it's been pretty quiet. Cindy's been working on some masks for people. So we've purchased various amounts of cloth, and she's got some elastics and wire bridge.
Yep.
So you can get a nice reusable mask out of the deal. So
nice.
She's been churning those out, and we did some work around the house here the other day and finished staining the deck. That was a feat all on its own, because we primed it, or no, like primed it by sanding it, right, and then it like we had a run of hot weather, and this is now going back into in late
Yeah,
June.
we're in July already. Oh, June already. Okay.
Yeah,
Has
it
been
was
that long?
late June. It was late June. It was into early July, and we had sanded the deck, and then it rained, and we had a.
Yes.
So we sanded it in late June, but then it rained. Like you couldn't get 2 consecutive days of nice weather.
Oh,
And,
yes.
and you need that for the stain to soak in and set up and all that kind of stuff, right? So
Yep.
yeah, we've finally hit on 2 consecutive days, and the deck dried out nicely, and we were able to stain it. And then it rained, and then we had to wait a week before we could put the second coat on it. But we managed to get the second coat on it, so that's good.
Mhm.
But what we had done on our deck is we had like outside seating on
Yeah.
wooden benches that were affixed to like what would be the railing anyways.
Yeah,
So
like it was almost built in.
yeah, built-in benches. So and planters. And we didn't use either the planters or the benches, so we tore all of that stuff out. And when
Oh,
we
wow.
did, we have this open-faced like railing system, and it just looks like the studs on a wall is how it's built. So we needed something to cover it up because it doesn't. It has that unfinished look about it. So
Okay.
we took the benches and sanded them down, and the length is long enough that we can use the benches to kind of fill in the space. And now you have cladding on the inside of the deck, and that's what we're finishing up what was finishing up staining this weekend was this cladding to go on the outside of the deck or the railing. So yeah,
Gotcha.
it's been a lot when you look at it, and I've also been working on like garage projects, if you will.
For sure.
Building a workbench to put tools on and that kind of stuff, and a place to work from. It's mowing the grass
As one does.
but yeah, nothing serious. We don't have plans to do any kind of traveling, although we might venture for a drive or something, like just a little ways out. But we don't have any aspirations of going anywhere and overnighting just yet. I think we're still trying to wait and see how things shake out. But in fact, just today my mom was asking about going to have dinner or going to have lunch at a patio.
Yep.
Either a pub or a restaurant kind of thing, right?
Yeah, somewhere with outdoor seating.
And I chatted with Cindy a bit about it, and our comfort level is not quite restaurant ready yet. So
Fair enough.
I think we'll be, we're good with takeout. We'll order something from a local restaurant or whatever, and we'll go pick it up and then bring it home and eat it. But we're not quite ready to eat out yet.
Yeah, for sure.
And how are you and your family? Anything new?
Summer is kind of heavy on birthdays, so it was William's birthday in kind of mid-July there, and then Elena shortly after that.
Right.
She actually wanted to go camping for her birthday. And her birthday is the same day as Grace's mom, and actually also Grace's cousin, but whatever. So now we have been doing some limited family visits, right? Like we'll see my parents, we'll see Grace's parents.
Right.
There's like one family in the neighborhood that we do occasionally hang out with. More on them presently. But yeah, so Elena for her birthday, we went out to Vermilion because of course we wanted to celebrate with Grace's family because it's her mom's birthday too. But Elena for her birthday in particular wanted to go tenting. And she's kind of a funny one in that because she has not been completely sold on the Beaver program for the 2 years she's been in it. Except the camping. Loves the camping. Yeah. So she wanted to just go tenting for a night. And Vermilion has a provincial park, so we booked a spot there, just her and me.
Yeah.
Grabbed some firewood from Grandpa's considerable stores. And, just brought out the s'more kit and some sausages and other things to cook over the fire and hung out there and explored the campsite a little bit and found all kinds of wacky and large mushrooms. That became the theme. It's just finding like big mushrooms, of which there were several. So, okay. And, so we hung out, tented, and then joined up with the rest of the gang at Grace's folks' place for birthday party the next day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Right on.
And then this other family, sort of like our one family that we've kind of incorporated into the cohort, they have a lot out at Baptiste Lake.
Oh.
So they've invited us up there a couple of times to just come out and pitch a tent and hang out and ride the boat, get out on the lake. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We went out, I think we've been out twice. So we went out once for an overnight and broke out the big 10-man tent, and that was pretty cool. And then I took the girls up just kind of at the beginning of August here. So Grace and William could just have a day at home or a day to hang out. And then me and the three girls, we went north to the lake, and that was pretty cool because it was all catch and release, but Elena got to catch a fish, and there was a bunch of we found a really the dad for this other family has a fishing license, and so he's always got his fishing gear in his boat, and he just happened to, actually, it was kind of funny because we kind of stopped on this little sandbar on the lake, and there was a beaver lodge right there.
Oh, nice.
So that was cool enough in and of itself.
Right.
But then right outside the beaver lodge, there was kind of just the way, because it was kind of, the beaver lodge was built right where this creek joins the lake, and just kind of the way the water flowed around the lodge, it had dug this rather deep channel. The rest of the water at that point was wading depth, but then there was this 2 foot, 3 foot deep channel, and jackfish were just hanging out in that spot.
Oh, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was just dropping. He'd just throw a sardine on a hook and drop it down, and 5 minutes later, you had a jackfish tugging at it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Did that 7 times. So literally all my kids got to catch a fish. It was pretty hilarious. I don't know if it was the same fish and he was just really hungry, or we weren't marking him or anything like that. But so I don't know if it was just one remarkably slow learner of a fish who just had a major appetite, or if it was actually a whole school of jackfish that were just hanging out in the reeds there. But either way, everybody got to catch a fish. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah, that was a really good time. And then beyond that, we're doing our deck too, of course, completely demolished. And we've had some guys here the last week or so framing the new one in. We're waiting on composite, but for the deck boards, we're waiting on supplies. But it's nice. It's got a nice, we added a nice roof frame to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's got now there's some sort of poly. I don't think it's plexiglass, but some kind of transparent poly over top. Cuts the UV down, but lets us look out, and so it kind of semi covered, but it'll be open on the sides. It'll be good. It'll be really good.
Yeah.
Once it's done, we had actually hoped to have it done this last weekend for Grace's birthday and deck warming cribbage tournament. That was the plan, but supplies are hard to come by. So, little delayed. Yeah. That said, it was my wife's birthday as well. And, so, we had just, takeout and cake to celebrate on the actual day. And then just on the weekend here, she had a few of her sisters over, and, just to, play crib and talk and shoot the breeze. Her parents showed up, and then the neighbor wandered in because he was taking his dog out for a walk. And he had never played cribbage, so they decided to teach him cribbage. And then me and William took the dog for the walk. It was really topsy-turvy. But William is the only of my 4 kids who actually likes dogs, and so he was just giggling the whole half hour that we had the puppy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it was pretty good. But I mean, it's obviously just based on that whole story, we're our comfort level getting out, being whatever is a little higher, but still it's in a way, it's still very, very hyper local, right? Like, it's our neighbors, and we know they don't really do much either. Like, we're both just kind of hanging at home with the kids most days. Or things like that. We don't really go out to restaurants either. We order, we'll get takeout. But then again, too, there's only so many restaurants that we can even eat at anymore, because of, now that we've identified like corn and corn-derived products as a major allergy category for Grace, there's only a handful of places we can even bother going, right?
Yeah.
So it's, but I think we're through all of that. And so I can stop overeating and get back to just working on stuff. So, and I mean, work's been okay. I've wrapped up a couple of projects. Now I'm building some training materials for the rest of my team.
Yeah.
And consuming more training materials because I got to do some kind of certification later in the year. But yeah, it's been all right. It's been all right.
Well, that's good. Yeah, work for me has been a lot of the same. Not necessarily. Well, I wouldn't say I'm. I'm not. I'm making sure that we finish a product release on time. I think that's where I'm at right now. Is
that's how you would put it on a resume if you needed to?
I'm monitoring a product release and trying to make sure that we stay on time. We may not.
I think they call that facilitating.
Yeah, we may not, but not for lack of me trying to motivate people. It's just we're hitting some roadblocks that are causing some delays. So
fair enough. Well, I mean, everything is kind of delayed right now. Good. For the other podcast, I even had to put a support ticket into Google because for whatever reason, Google's podcasts manager had the wrong feed for the other podcast.
Oh yeah.
Not for this one. This one's still good, but for the other one, they had the wrong feed.
Oh. And what does that do? Like if it's the wrong feed?
Well, it showed that I hadn't published a new episode since 2017.
Oh.
Which is untrue.
It is untrue.
So, I had to, I contacted their support people, and the first email I got back was, great, thank you. We have acknowledged, the receipt of your support ticket. Please be advised that all of our support staff are working from home due to COVID-19, and so there may be additional delays and lag time in, turnaround, blah, 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 blah. This is basically just like right there, baked into the auto response. Just like, look, all the support guys are working from home. So they'll get to it when they get to it, but it might be longer than you'd otherwise expect from us, Google.
Yeah.
So, but they did fix it. So awesome.
Yep.
There it is.
That's great.
Now.
Well, I hope it gets resolved for you.
Well, it's good now. It's just, everything is delayed, right? So, I mean, if nothing else, you could always fall back on that. It's just like, what? Like we're trying to balance, not having too many people in the office at once and not kind of, there's still this pandemic thing happening.
Yeah. We'll call it the year of delays.
Yeah, exactly. Right. 2020 now coming in 2021.
Yeah, that's right.
Terrible. Okay. Well, speaking of, so, I mean, and it's funny too, because I've had with both podcasts, this one and the other one, I've done 3 interviews in the last 2 weeks. With the other podcast, so there's a podcast called Geek's Guide to the Galaxy. It's put on by Wired magazine. And they reached out to me because they wanted to talk to somebody about the Ultima series and its fan community and how the fan community kind of continues to exist and in some ways thrive to this day, even though it's been almost 21 years since the last numbered Ultima game was published.
Right.
So, and that was a cool conversation. I enjoyed that. But then also out of the UK, there's a video cast called Big Man in the Woods. Mark, the guy who runs that, reached out to me because he wanted to chat with me about the podcast and Scouts Canada and the pandemic and blah, 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 blah. And then just a couple of days ago, Justin from Scouting Radio reached out to me because he wanted to do a little webinar about returning to scouting and what that looks like in different places around the world. And so we had a fairly lengthy talk, kind of comparing and contrasting like how it's happening in Ireland and how it's happening in the UK. And then, of course, me contributing the Scouts Canada component, because like beaver colonies and like scouts in the UK, in some parts of the UK, it's kind of going county by county, are able to meet again. There was a news bit in the Scouting 5 that I did last week talking about like the first couple of beaver colonies there that did in-person outdoor meetings again, which is like awesome. Cool, guys. And then similarly, like in Ireland, there's some counties that are under total lockdown and some counties that are under relaxed restrictions. And so they're looking at getting back into action as well.
Yeah.
And of course, we talked previously about what it's going to be for Scouts Canada, right? Like we're not going to be able to do, they're taking more of a national strategy rather than anything that's particularly regionalized.
That's right. Yeah.
And so we're not going to be returning to in-person until September at best. But that did kind of give me, and some of this I'm going to be kind of borrowing from the discussion I had with Justin, but, and then also just some of the discussions I've been having with, my fellow Scouters and some of the stuff that I'm going to have to start putting out there to the parents as well. But I think maybe, instead of, it was funny because when I was talking to Mark for his video cast, I mentioned that we had a few different topics in the pipeline. One of them may well wind up being the Baden-Powell thing. It's a little heavy for this time. Another one, I still do want to talk about youth safety in light of Curtis's recent return to, to the area under his own recognizance, which, but there it is. And I do still want to have those conversations. But tonight, I thought that, like what's freshest in mind for me is this idea of returning to scouting. And in particular, some strategies. Because for most places that reopen scouting, maybe not New Zealand. Guess it's easy to be 100 days COVID free when you're an island nation and you close the border. But there it is. For most places, the return to scouting, like we already see this with the UK, they can do outdoor meetings, and that's going to be the case for us come fall. But for most places, the return to scouting is definitely going to look like some variant of what Scouts Canada is proposing, right? And like I was talking about with Justin, I don't know if this episode is going to go live ahead of the episode that I recorded with Justin. If so, well, all right, whatever. Scouts Canada has outlined what they call 5 scenarios, or, in the phraseology of the various places that are reopening in Canada, phase, I think, is what's used instead of scenario. Doesn't really matter. Scenario 1 is where we're at right now. Virtual scouting only. Now, on the plus side, that means that gathering size is unconstrained, save by the limits of whatever tech platform you're using.
Right.
You still have to maintain 2 deep, but, Zoom is 300 participants for a meeting and Google Meet is 250. So, those are your limits in terms of actually having a chat with people online. But right now, virtual scouting only until at least the end of August. Scenario 2, which is proposed for September, allows for and recommends the continuation of virtual scouting, but allows for outdoor gatherings. The size of gatherings, as we've previously discussed, is constrained to 16 youth. Obviously with a sufficient number of scouters, but with 16 youth, you can technically do it with 2 scouters, right?
Right.
Patrol method gets a lot of emphasis, of course, because, yes, 16 youth maximum, but we're supposed to, again, in the current phraseology of the pandemic, cohort them down to groups of 8, which, by the way, happens to be the size of a patrol. And here's where it gets a little bit trickier, because under scenario 2, sharing of equipment is to be highly, highly limited within cohorts only. And in particular to camping, there's still no camping for beavers. So my youngest daughter is going to be quite put out by that, I'm sure. Since I was like the only part of the program she was really genuinely enthusiastic for. And cubs are only supposed to go camping under, well, they say only exceptionally for cubs. Now, I don't know what an exceptional camping circumstance is.
That
And
sounds like user discretion kind of thing, right? It's like
discretion and risk assessment and all the rest. But, and I was joking about this with Justin, it's kind of like the knife standards for cubs, which is to say that, yes, under some conditions, cubs can use knives with supervision and permission, but there's not actually like defined examples of what those conditions are.
Like.
It's like, okay, so what is it? So my cubs can use knives, but when? Well, figure it out.
We're going to leave it ambiguous enough that you could get in trouble if you did it and did it wrong. But if you do it right, nobody's going to care.
Yeah, it's the enough rope to hang yourself school of policymaking.
Yes.
But, so whatever. Only exceptionally for cubs. That's taking cubs camping. Scouts, vents, rovers, they can go camping. But if they go camping, one person per tent.
Yeah, I mean,
I get it as like a safety measure right now. I totally get that. But that is, I think, probably going to be the biggest constraint. And it really makes me wish that Scouts Tracker allowed me to cap activities at a specific number of participants, right? Because within Scouts Tracker, which for those of you tuning in from outside of Canada, it would kind of be the equivalent of like the BSA Scout Book web app, or I don't know if there's analogous software in other countries, but it's basically the web-based software that we in Scouts Canada use to track all the members of our beaver colonies, cub packs, scout troops, etc. We use it to schedule meetings and other events. We use it to track badge progress. We use it for communications. It has a communication component. We can send out emails, things like that.
Yep.
So, within Scouts Tracker, obviously, I can, there's already the ability to define an event for, say, a scout troop, and then have the individual members of the scout troop indicate via Scouts Tracker whether they will be in attendance or not. We can assign fees for things and all of that stuff. The one thing that is not currently there is the ability to cap an event at a set number of registrations. Like once 10 people have signed up, that's it. I don't currently have that ability, and I would like that ability because I think going forward under Scenario 2 and then Scenario 3, which is very much like it, although under Scenario 3, beavers do get to go camping again. For some groups, this is going to, for some groups, having each youth in an individual tent is actually going to wind up being an insurmountable obstacle. Because not every group has a significantly large inventory of tents, and not every family has a tent to just hand off to their kid to go wandering off into the bush for a weekend.
Yes.
Now, for our group and for other groups that are similarly well equipped, we still have, like the number of tents that I have in the trailer. That is my absolute maximum of people that I can take out into the bush, right? And at least 2 of those tents are reserved for scouters. So that's why it would be nice to be able to cap activities at a number, right? Maybe not necessarily for scouts. I don't know how many scouts are going to be coming back to like my eldest's troop, right? Because about half of them were completely new to the program, hadn't been cubs, hadn't anything. I don't know if we'll see them back. But for cubs, I'm expecting to have more than 16 of my 40-odd cubs come back in the fall, let alone next year whenever registration opens up. And so, there it kind of becomes a case of, well, geez, I guess we will need to make sure that when we are allowing registrations for events that, once we hit 16, 18, that's it. That's who goes. First come, first served. So having had all of these discussions, what I wanted this podcast to be about was kind of just like a brainstorming and pitching ideas for how to do scouting come the fall, assuming that you're only allowed to do it outdoors, because I'm thinking that's going to be the case for a lot of other scouting organizations as well, not just Scouts Canada.
Yep.
And at least in the Northern Hemisphere, there's a significant logistical challenge to outdoor meetings that starts to become rather a factor in about September. Which is to say, it gets dark. It gets dark fast. So, and also it gets cold as you get closer to December.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we'll see -40 this side of December, but or this side of January. But it does get cold. So, the first thought, and this is something that we're actually going to try and do with the Scout Troop, and I may pitch something similar for the Cubs. I don't know. I've got to have that conversation still. But one thing we are doing with the Scout Troop is, like the Scout Troop would normally meet on Wednesday evenings, and sometimes will. But a lot of our Scout meetings are probably going to wind up being on Saturday afternoon because we'll have daylight.
Yep.
And so maybe just kind of as a first thought to throw out there to anybody tuning in and needing a couple of ideas of how to proceed with outdoor-only scouting in the Northern Hemisphere, especially when fall is looming. Hopefully you have the ability to be flexible with your meeting date and time. Because I think, and I can't even take credit for this idea. This is actually Morgan. I believe you've met Morgan.
Yes.
Yeah. And, she's one of the troop scouters for Ella's scout troop. And I mean, she made the point quite blatantly. She's just like, people can be free on a Saturday,
It's also a matter of venue location too, right? Like the reason we would customarily have weeknight meetings is because that's
when we have the school or the hall or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. The booking was available. It never had to do with the fact that nobody could meet on a weekend. Yes, your weekends are going to typically be more busy, but there's nothing saying a Saturday afternoon is a poor choice for sure.
Well, and what Morgan pointed out further to that was, she has tremendous amounts of international experience with her scouting career. She's done, she's done the whole Kandersteg thing and just like everything. She's met so many international scouts, and she's been to so many other countries just in a scouting capacity. It's awesome. And the point that she made was that, like when she talks with scouts from Europe, especially other places too, it's weird to them. It's weird to a lot of them that, her group meets on like, say, a Wednesday evening. They're just like, you don't just get together on the weekend because it's kind of the weekend, where you have daytime and you have, I mean, again, point taken, like that's when you can get the school, that's when you can get the hall if you don't have your own scout hall, which we don't. And you take the space when you can get it. But there are constraints, right? You're losing, especially in the fall and winter months, you're losing daylight. Depending on when your booking is, you're kind of getting into the later evening, which isn't necessarily a problem for scouts, but it can be a problem for your beavers and sometimes your cubs. There's a lot of sense to meeting on the weekend. And plus that, on the weekend, if you need to run long, you might almost have more flexibility for doing so, right? It's a lot easier to say, well, we're going to meet from 2 till 4, but we might need to go till 5, than it is to say, well, we're going to meet from 6 till 8, but we might need to go till 9, Parents are going to be scratching their heads at that 9 p.m. thing going, wait a minute, hang on, that's PJ time.
My child needs to be in bed by, 8:30.
Especially if it's a school night, right? So maybe as a first suggestion, look at the weekend, consider moving your meetings around in time if you're able to, because you kind of just need to be able to have a little bit of that flexibility, right? We're not going to be able to go indoors anyways. So being beholden to a booking time that we're not even going to be able to take advantage of, it doesn't make a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the nice thing about going outdoors is you have lots of opportunities to run down the list of, your scout craft and your just in general outdoor skills, right? So, I mean, a lot of the ideas kind of just flow naturally, right? You can go for hikes, you can do shelter building, you can do lashing, you can do fire starting, you can do all of those nice outdoor skills that really people are still, I think, hoping that scouts will impart.
You got to go find yourself a walking stick or a staff, or
Yeah, which reminds me, I still got to finish making mine and my kiddos, but got some nice cherry wood spars drying in the garage.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly right. Like you can.
There's some woodcraft out there.
There's woodcraft out there. There's just general scoutcraft out there. There's the opportunity to get out for hikes out there. And, you know, actually, this is one idea, too, that I had kind of just on the spur of the moment while we were spitballing for, like, other ideas to do over the summer even. Because, like, we're going to be doing a virtual camp out with the Scouts next weekend. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thought that I had was, you know, if you set it up on, like, a Saturday and you set up, like, a series of Zoom calls at particular intervals, right? Like, you know, we'll have one at 1 o'clock and then 1:30 and one, you know, at 2 o'clock and 2:30 and 3 o'clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, wherever they are, can just go out and find a spot and start hiking. And then at those pre-appointed times, they can all log into the meeting. At least in Alberta, this idea works well. And anywhere where there's good mobility service, this works well.
Mm-hmm.
They can all log into the meeting. The meeting doesn't have to run very long. We don't want to guzzle down everybody's data plans. But, you know, just take 10 minutes at those scheduled times to check in, make sure everybody's doing okay. Let everybody take a minute to just kind of pan the camera around and talk about where they've hiked to. And then just keep walking, right? A virtual hike.
Mm-hmm.
It's another one that you can take to the bank, I guess, if you're listening to this. The other thought, and I haven't had a lot of traction selling this to my own group, but other groups may find some use in it. I got to reading a few different books over the summer. One of them is called 99 Thoughts on Leading Volunteers. It's by Kent Julian. And now he writes it from the perspective of leading and fostering Christian youth ministries. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the points that he makes about building and training volunteer teams are pretty generally applicable. I've certainly been keeping notes about how... Exactly.
Yeah.
And especially because, you know, virtual scouting is still very much on the table for us. And actually, realistically, like looking at Scouts Canada's return to scouting scenarios, all the way up to scenario 5. And scenario 5 is everything's back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
They still recommend keeping virtual scouting as an option, right? Julian, in his book, it's called 99 Thoughts. His 23rd thought is that he's found that volunteers tend best to recommit to volunteering year in and year out if he schedules breaks into the annual ministry calendar.
Mm.
You know, he says, in the same way that I think weekends and vacation when putting together my calendar, I think weekends and vacation when putting together a ministry calendar. For me, weekends revolve around series. For instance, let's say the group program occurs on Sunday evenings. In that case, the good way to schedule a weekend, so to speak, is to plan a 3 to 5 week series, and then when each series is over, take the next Sunday night off. So, you know, you plan a spate of activities, obviously all outdoors, and then you just have 1 week that's a down week, you know?
That's not gather. That's really not a bad idea when you think about it.
Exactly.
Especially if you're committing like an afternoon to scouting, you know, you can maybe have a longer meeting than you would normally and, you know, work towards something. And when you're done, then take a break.
Yep. And, you know, I mean, the other thought that I had is that, you know, if you are going to do something like that, like if you did have a couple of volunteers who were keeners like me, who, you know, would happily do scouting on what's supposed to be the break week anyways, you could always just put up a completely optional Google Meet, right? Or Zoom meeting or Teams call or, you know, whatever your tech platform is. Basically just say, you know what? We're not meeting this week. You don't have to show up. You don't have to worry about it. But if you want to, a couple scouters will be at this link between these hours. If you want to pepper them with questions or talk about badges or anything like that, log in and say hi, right? One thing, like I've noticed that, I mean, there's always going to be a collection of scouters who are just very down on the virtual meeting component. And there will be a collection of parents that are down on it too, right? Especially if, you know, in school jurisdictions where remote learning is going to be the norm for the foreseeable future, especially in, or in jurisdictions like Alberta where you have the option to do either in-class learning or remote learning. So for families that opt for remote learning, and this is something that we saw a lot in the group anyways, which is, parents were saying, well, my kid's already spending, 2 to 3 hours a day in front of a screen doing their homework. I don't really want them spending another hour a day, in the evening now doing the scouting thing too. And that's unfortunate, but I do understand the reasoning there. So for some scouters and some parents, virtual scouting is never really going to be a seller. But it is a useful tool that, I would encourage scout groups to look into where possible. Wise in the use of all resources, right? That's part of the, that's kind of part of what we profess and what we ask the youth to profess as well. It can be used for, it doesn't have to be a whole meeting. You can use it in a very limited capacity, but you can make use of it. Whether it is for simple things like, talking about badges, maybe doing some badge testing, things like that. Or just giving the youth a sounding board. Because sometimes the youth just need a sounding board, right? People have questions. People have questions about everything they're part of, including scouting. And normally I would just let a youth pull me aside at a meeting if they had a question, but I may not have that opportunity in the same way under these more restrictive guidelines. So giving them that opportunity to just ask a couple questions could still have value to it, right?
Yep. No, I agree. Like I think it makes sense to have like what you're saying about that whole thing where it's like work towards something, take a break, but still be available because scouting still happens, right? And you want to help foster the program more, having scouters available to work on badges or to answer those kind of scouting related questions that the youth might have. Or maybe the youth just they enjoy having that time, to see their friends or whatever, regardless of if it's in person or on a Google Meet or Zoom meeting. Still very valid.
Exactly. And I mean, again, like the point of scheduling those breaks, I don't think it's a good idea. I think I'm going to try and push for that a little bit more. The point of scheduling those breaks is, to kind of give everybody a rest, right? Gives the youth a bit of a break, gives the volunteers a bit of a break. Yeah. The scouters could use one too. But, there are sometimes scouters who are particularly keen, like myself, and, who wouldn't mind not hanging it up for that week. Mm-hmm. And, if you had two of those people, they could be on a Zoom call. Just, and again, if 2 or 3 youth sign in at most, whatever, just because realistically, the youth that are going to show up for that kind of thing are the youth like you and me, right? These are the ones who are, as long as you give them the ability to do so, these are the ones that are going to be in scouting for the long haul.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the ones that aren't, they'll be just like, they'll take the break and they'll happily, not show up for a virtual meeting or anything like that and whatever. And that's fine too. Mm-hmm. But if you do have a few, particularly keen youth who want to keep in touch with scouting, even on the off week, who want to keep in touch with each other in the context of scouting, even on the off week, having a way to enable that, not a bad thing.
It might even allow for the off week. Might even allow for the stuff to happen at a patrol level. Like, yes, we don't have to dedicate a particular meeting to everybody getting, or like the 16 people getting together. It can be the 8 people are getting together to go do something, or
communicating with each other by some means. Yeah. Now, I mean, to be fair, if they're going to be doing something in the context of scouting, there should ideally still be some oversight. I can't really help it if one youth emails another. Yeah. That is definitely outside of my control as a scouter. I can say, well, please always make sure that you're CCing myself and Scouter so-and-so on any scouting related. Nobody does that. Hardly any of them do that. I've asked so many times already and it never happens.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, how many times did we like meet up as a group of like-minded individuals? I mean, like
Exactly. And maybe that's just what happens, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, so I mean, if the youth reach out to communicate with each other, that's fine. Now, that said, if a group is going to provide a patrol a platform for that kind of correspondence, whether that's, an assigned Google Meet link or a Discord server or something of that nature, then there should be more oversight.
Right.
And exactly
Yes.
what form that oversight will take,
Yeah.
that's a discussion to have inside the group.
Yeah, that's a
That
group
said,
level. But
it's not a bad idea at all.
no.
Especially because, and one thing, like, in a way, this pandemic and the phased relaunch of scouting is a really, really good thing for the program to just, it's a really, really good way for the program to just kind of refocus on the things that are supposed to be the best enablers of scouting success, which is that outdoors focus, the patrol method. The patrol method is like
Mhm.
designed for this, right?
Oh, exactly. Right. The small groups of people.
Mhm.
Yeah. That just screams patrol.
The small
right?
groups of people, but also just, the patrol leadership model, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's so much in the scouting program that is like just designed for this exact scenario.
Yeah.
Designed to enable a great deal of success in this exact scenario. The problem is that's not necessarily how a lot of us have been doing scouting prior to the pandemic. On the one hand, I read the phased relaunch scenarios, and some of it is, admittedly a little bit foreign to me, like the individual tenting and some of the equipment-related limitations, and now not being able to take the beavers camping. Like, those are definitely exceptional things that are new and strange and, in some cases, unfortunate. But, a lot of this, especially when we're talking about having the youth essentially operate as, patrol level units, independent of each other or semi-independent of each other, that's something we should be doing anyways. The outdoor focus, that's what the program was always about anyways. This could wind up being a really good way to sort of just reset our approach to scouting. And I say that as, the one who's been emphasizing the use of technology in the group, right? Whether that's Joda Jody or coding or now the virtual scouting. This is a real opportunity to refocus and reprioritize how we deliver scouting. And I would hope that groups are able to really sort of capitalize and take advantage of that. Because done right, this is the sort of thing that could, have, even when we get to that scenario 5, where there's no determination on there's no real limitations on gathering sizes, there's no limitations on cohorts, there's no limitations on equipment sharing, everybody can go camping, we're essentially back to normal, quote unquote. If we can do scenario 2 and 3 and 4 leading up to that return to normal, such as it is, we could return to normal programming in a way that, sort of really takes more advantage of what and puts more emphasis on some of the fundamental elements of what scouting is supposed to be. Whether that's, under, and I could say under the Canadian path, but realistically it's under the one program model, or, even under sort of many of the ideals outlined all the way back in Scouting for Boys, right?
Right.
This could be a really good thing for scouting in general, if groups are able to survive and thrive. And that's going to be the challenge initially, because I do think we will see a membership downturn, at least for 2021.
Yeah. No, I think a lot. Well, I'm speculating. I feel like there will be a lot or a noticeable decline in extracurricular groups, right? Like
some, yeah.
Your sports teams and that kind of stuff. Although they're allowing them to be cohorts as well, but I mean, how many cohorts can you belong to? Like that's
one.
Exactly,
I think is the.
Right? So you must choose, but choose wisely. Like I'm pretty sure there are people out there that aren't cohorting properly, but that being said,
just about everybody, I'm sure.
yeah. Well, if they're
But not every.
if they're being honest with themselves, I guess.
Yeah. Not every sport, though, is considered a cohort sport. Like curling, which my eldest wants to get back into, isn't.
They're changing the rules of play on that. Did you know?
Say what?
Have you been following the curling back to play document?
Somewhat. Yeah, somewhat.
Yeah, they've kind of got it. They've kind of got it laid out. I mean, I people are supposed to stand in specific spots now on the ice instead of.
And there's only one sweeper, and
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, no, sorry for the tangent, but
no.
I had gotten an email about it. That's why I was like, have you read up on it?
Yeah, I've gotten a few emails too as well. And I mean, like, you know what? The changes they're making are, I mean, they're changes, but they're not like really deleterious to the sport by any means.
No, it's not changing the sport.
No, not like, well, even fastball, because, Juliana's playing fastball right now. Fastball hasn't changed that much either.
Is that a cohort sport?
It is. It is considered a cohort sport, and in particular, there's only one other team that they're allowed to play against.
Right now.
Okay. So, it's our team and this other team, and we've been assigned to Diamond, they've been assigned to Diamond, and, either we're playing there or they're playing at ours, and then there's also just individual team practices that happen.
Right.
And, at practices, you can't sit on the benches or things like that. So there's definitely a few changes, and people just have to, the biggest problem I had coaching fastball was that everybody wanted to be bat catcher.
Yeah.
Now you get two, right? They have two sets of bat catching gear, so they get to appoint two bat catchers.
Yeah. You can't substitute someone in. No.
And those kids are the bat catchers for every game.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like, and in a way that sucks because you don't get to rotate everybody through what is inexplicably the most popular position on the field. It's the one that all the balls get thrown at. I don't know why that works, but on the other hand, I mean, like, that's how it works on most sports teams anyways, right? You play that position and not that position.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's
maybe I need to rethink my thoughts on it. Maybe there won't be as much of a decline. But I mean, with the choice of being in a like, cohort sports aside, right? If you're playing a cohort sport, then you kind of have to make up your mind whether you're going to be in the.
You got to pick and choose.
Yeah.
Yep. You got to pick and choose.
So that'll be a decision that affects groups, I'm sure.
Yep. And I mean, like, but in a way, I got to wonder, right? Because I mean, fastball isn't going to be happening in the fall.
No.
Soccer isn't going to be happening in the fall. Basketball.
That kind of stuff. I think you predominantly you'll be competing with curling, or not curling, but hockey. But
yeah,
you should
there'll be a lot of that
curling.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, come on. But yeah, no, there will be a lot of that. Ideally, yes, people are supposed to be picking and choosing. They have their one thing, and that's just it. And
the one group of people they hang out with.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, in some ways, that could actually wind up being really good for families too, because like one thing that we realized with our kids early on was that we just could not do too much. Maybe two things. We could register them in about two things. We tried to push it to three happening simultaneously. It was too much for them, and it was too crazy for us.
There's only so much you guys to go around, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. So I mean, this could wind up having some interesting and positive knock-on effects where people are just, kind of forced to reevaluate a little bit and realize, like maybe just this thing is fine. This one thing is fine. And we don't need to do the three other things that we were planning on doing before. So I don't know. But at any rate, kind of coming back to the idea of, like suggestions for programming.
Our tangential
wander.
Probably
Yeah. I mean, probably have to wrap it up soon here anyways. But, yeah, just take advantage of the outdoors. Take advantage of opportunities to reschedule. Take advantage of your daylight. And just,
And take advantage of the nighttime, too. Like, I mean, there's dark spaces that you can go out and see constellations at and that kind of business, too. So, I mean,
that's true.
By no means are we saying don't hold your meeting on a weeknight. There may be some good activities to do on a weeknight. Who knows, right? So
I guess the message is like more, just be more purposeful and intentional, right? Like just tailor your schedule to your needs if you can, right?
Yeah, you're not beholden to a reservation, a booking, a whatever. You're free to do what outside what you need to do, right?
Yeah, if you can't meet indoors, then don't be beholden to a hall booking time or a school gym booking time, because there's no point in that, Yeah. Now, I mean, that said, Northern Lights Council is going to be rebooking the school gym for us. Not that we're going to be able to take advantage of it until January at the earliest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the vagaries of how these scheduling systems work.
Well,
but, just because I have the school gym booked for Wednesday night doesn't mean that we just have to be prancing around the school property Wednesday after Wednesday. No, we'll move things around in time as best we're able because, you're right. Some activities are better suited to night. There's fun stuff that you can get up to under cover of darkness, right? Whether that's stargazing or whether that's, nighttime orienteering challenges can be a good deal of fun. Nighttime wide games can be a good deal of fun.
Yes.
But there are definitely activities that work better under daylight. And if that means taking a weekday afternoon, then take a weekday afternoon if you can.
Yep.
Keep your schedule very, very open. And just think about, in terms of the virtual meetings, if you have to go virtual, because, if you're in this scenario, again, my Cub Pack has 40 odd youth in it on the roster right now until the end of the year. Whether I see all 40 odd of them back in September, I don't know. If I do, then I'm going to have to get creative. But the thing is, we already have this kind of down in the Cub Pack because there are times where we'll want to go to, say, the archery range or the climbing wall. And the archery range has a set capacity, and it sure as heck is a lot smaller than 40. And the climbing wall has a set capacity, and it is also much smaller than 40. So what we've done traditionally, historically rather, what we've done is we will basically schedule 2 packs to go to, 2 layers within the pack, patrols, if you will. We'll go to the archery range. 2 will go to the climbing wall. And 2 will go to, usually we'll have some kind of community volunteering activity, sorting food at the food bank or something like that, right? Historically, that's what we've done. We basically set up these 3 activities where we're sending 12 to 16 youth to each of the 3 activities, and then we just rotate over the next 3 weeks. So everybody gets to do everything within a 3-week span. So, and maybe that could be like a series for you, right? And then you just take that next week off.
Yep.
Maybe have, a virtual meeting to talk about badges. But even if you have to go the virtual meeting route, just think about it more creatively, because virtual meetings, like in-person meetings, you can move them around in time if you need to. And you can do different things with them. We live in an era of unprecedented internet availability and internet access across, not just our homes, but our communities. And especially if you're in Alberta, much of the surrounding province, right? So you can even get creative with that, right? You don't have to have long Zoom meetings if everybody's gone out for hikes in and around where they live. But just short little check-ins so that everybody can say, yeah, hey, cool. And, while I was hiking, I found a beaver pond. Here's, you can see the beaver pond, things like that, right? Mm-hmm. Take 10 minutes, talk it out, and then everybody just keeps hiking their own way. Mm-hmm. Check in again in half an hour. Think about the ubiquity of internet connectivity, where you can connect to the internet from, and think about what kinds of activities you can do as individuals or as a youth out with their parent across that space. And just have some fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Scouting is going to be a little different. In some ways, it's going to be a bit back to basics, and in some ways, it's going to be forging some new ground for the foreseeable future, but that doesn't have to be a bad thing. And that can actually be a very good thing. This could actually be a time to reevaluate and establish or reestablish some practices that we can carry forward into the future of our groups. So even once the pandemic is but a distant memory, these are still opportunities and options that we have open to us that we can use to, really create challenge for the youth. Learning opportunity is what I'm trying to say here. And growth opportunity too, I suppose.
I think so. I think it's certainly a unique time to be involved in the scouting movement.
Yeah, this is quite the time to be sure. All right. I don't believe I have any shout outs. So
did you see that Mr. Atkinson left us a message on Discord?
Oh, did he leave us a message on the Discord?
Yes.
Where did he do that?
Way at the bottom. It's about MedVents. It's his application form.
Is that under links?
I am
not
looking
under links. What channel are you in, my man?
Recording chat is what it is.
Oh, perfect.
So
when was this? That was June, and I know I talked about that one since then.
Okay, so
yes.
Sorry, I'm late to the party. So.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I have but one set of eyes. I can't cover everything. So
I'm not with it with these new technologies.
Yeah, well, a learning opportunity for you, sir. Yeah, no, I remember Eric talking about that, and that made it into, I believe, a Scouting 5 episode a few months back. So,
all right.
But hey, I mean, MedVents, shout out, they're awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
Love them. So, with that said, of course, big shout out to the folks at Scouting Radio for rebroadcasting our episodes to their worldwide audience. If you're listening to us on Scouting Radio right now, please do let us know. Reach out, get in touch. We would love to hear from you.
Scouter Ken.
Yes, sir.
How does one get a hold of us with all these new fangled technologies that we're
all the technologies? Yes. Well, okay. So we are on. Where are we on? We are on many, many platforms now.
So many platforms.
All the platforms.
Pick one.
Not all the platforms. I have some platforms that we are on, but not all the platforms.
Many, but not all.
Mm-hmm. A quantity of platforms.
Yeah,
quantity of platforms. But yes, you can, of course, send us an email, scoutingstuffpodcast@gmail.com, or at outlook.com. I answer it both. You can leave us voice messages at scoutingstuffpodcast.com. Just pop up the sidebar. There'll be a little link there.
We're still waiting for somebody to do that. Yeah,
well, it'll happen someday, or it won't. I don't know.
Someone might feel the need to voice their opinion.
Of course, you can join us here on Discord, which we continue to use to record episodes. It's very easy to maintain social distancing when the internet is the medium between two people. So there will be a link for the Discord server in the show notes. By all means, do consider joining. You don't even have to take part in the episodes. If you just want to lurk while we record, that's totally cool. You can, of course, just talk with us on the Discord server. I'm usually around. Twitter.com/SSYSK podcast. Facebook or Instagram.com/Scouting Stuff Podcast. We're at TikTok. We are at Scouting Stuff Podcast there. Or leave us a review on iTunes or whatever other podcast portal supports reviews. I know Stitcher does. I don't know if Google does yet, but at any rate, reviews.
Yeah. Reviews are a good thing for us to get us.
And share us with your social media circles. By all means, please do that. Because you know what? I mean, that helps bring new listeners in as well. And we like having more people to talk with.
We have a milestone, though, that we should mention about our podcast there, Scouter Ken.
Well, we tripped past episode 100. When was that now? Well, the last time you and I talked was episode 100.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about our downloads.
Oh, yes, that's right. We did recently cross, according to Podbean's metrics, we've crossed 100,000 downloads, which is pretty cool. They gave us a little badge for that.
Yay, us.
Yes. So, well, and I mean, like, you know...
More appropriately, yay, you guys.
Exactly. Thank you for downloading and listening to our stuff. You know, it's nice to know that we're not just talking aimlessly and into these microphones without those words finding any purchase on other ears. But
on the internet.
Yeah. Well, we are that. But people apparently like listening, so those people are awesome.
Our soothing baritone voices.
Well, yeah. All right. So yes, thank you out there for listening, because it's really cool to hit milestones like that. You are right, Colin. So, and on that note, we will talk to you again on another episode. And until next time, be prepared.